ready to fly through potential debuts?
Yeah, I'm going to guide you through this. And, it's just throw names at the wall and see if they stick. What we're going to do is we're going to work through teams alphabetically. And all we want to do, like rapid fire exercise, max 15, 20 minutes. Just who could be the guy to break camp on opening day and be
And
a
if they
part of this
have
roster?
any service time, they're not on this
We're
list.
not talking about them. Like, we're going to start with Arizona. We're not talking about Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in talking about Corbin Carroll because we already have.
Yeah.
So starting with Arizona, I think the answer is pretty clear cut that it's Brandon Pfaadt, right?
Brandon Pfaadt, and I think he's one of the biggest dark horses for rookie of the year in the National League, because this guy can pitch. We've talked about it, but 4 pitches that he commands well that get above average lifts. He was able to pitch on the moon. I think people really are sleeping on Brandon Pfaadt. We got him at 46 on our top 100 list. He's breaking camp. If he doesn't, it's blatant service time manipulation. And I don't think he will, because I don't think they'll manipulate his service time, because I think they're pretty serious. I think the Diamondbacks want to win this year, and I think Pfaadt's going to be a surprising, X factor for them and be a big part of that.
Now, let me roll you through this. Starting 5 right now, the 5-man rotation for the Arizona Diamondbacks is Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Madison Bumgarner, Ryan Nelson, Dre Jameson. Obviously, Bumgarner is the one that you want to get rid of, but you can't because you have so much financially tied up with him. Who do you displace for Pfaadt? Nelson?
Yeah, I think Ryan Nelson. But I think it's going to be an open competition in spring training, and that's going to be one of my favorites to monitor. But I think Brandon Pfaadt's just going to outpitch those guys in spring training. Like, he is so advanced and so polished that he's just it's going to be a competition between, Jameson, Nelson, and whoever else. Or hell, man, if all of them look that good, you tell Mad Bum to kick rocks and send him to the bullpen. Like, who cares? I don't know if they'd do it, and he'd probably pout a lot, but I think Pfaadt is not the question. It's going to be whoever else gets dispelled. That's how confident I am in this guy.
Yeah, and you've got a Tommy Henry and a Tyler Gilbert as well. All right, Atlanta. Jared Schuster is a name that jumps out here. The other one that jumps out is our Rule 5 darling, Victor Vodnik, who did not get taken.
Yeah.
Schuster, the only reason I refrain from saying Schuster is because of that starting pitching depth that we're talking about in Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta is one of the tougher ones because that team is so solidified. I would say a dark horse for them is Braden Shoemake. I don't think he's going to light it up, and I don't think he's as exciting as some of the other prospects that we're going to be talking about here, but especially given the uncertainty at the shortstop position, Vaughn Grissom, I think he's going to end up, tackling that, and he's working with the defensive wizard that is Ron Washington. But, Shoemake is versatile. He can play a decent shortstop. He's got a good arm. He can run. He could be that kind of super utility guy for them, especially if Grissom's, struggling a little bit or, just not totally getting acclimated the way that they were hoping at short. Shoemake can plug in and, see what he can do there. I think he's a bat to ball guy that could be a 700 OPS guy that can run and play good defense from the left side. It's a good scrappy little player, and they don't need much, right? Like, they just need a guy that can hold it down over there. The rest of the team is disgusting.
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason that I may refrain from saying Braden Shoemake is because they still have Orlando Arcia, and Arcia is probably that third middle infielder, but Shoemake does scream controllable third middle infielder.
I'll give you one other name, Darius Vines. Good fastball. I think they could throw him in the bullpen as well. But yeah, less sexy over there with the Braves.
Got you. Baltimore, we could talk about Kowser, we could talk about Westburg, we could talk about Connor Normie, but it starts and stops with Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah. Don't need to spend too much time on G-Rod. I mean, we're talking about, potentially best pitcher in baseball upside, 4+ pitches. I guess you can almost throw in a fifth with the way he uses a cutter. Talk about rookie of the year favorite as well. If he's healthy, this guy's going to carve guys up. He could be their best pitcher from the jump, depending on who they sign. And this is going to be a really fun player to watch debut. I still think he should be their opening day starter. I don't think they'll do it, but I legitimately think he should be.
Unless Carlos Rodon is a Baltimore Oriole, of course.
Yes, which I doubt, but would be awesome.
I doubt it as well. Red Sox, we're not talking about Tristan Casas. The two names that jump to my mind are Ceddanne Rafaela depending on what happens here. And the other one that I think makes a bit more sense is Chris Murphy, left-hander that can, be a back-end starter or be in the bullpen on opening day.
Yeah, I think, Murphy struggled a bit in triple, but, I still think he could be a guy that ends up getting thrown into that bullpen in some capacity. The number one guy I'm excited to see how he does this year is Brian Mata. And I think Mata could end up being this guy that we all were like, oh, wait, I remember that guy. And he's pitching to that ability that we were talking about, 2 years ago. Remember, he was kind of on the cusp of breaking out, hitting triple digits, dealt with an arm injury and dealt with a few different issues. And he climbed multiple levels, made up for lost time last year, rehabbed in low A, made a couple appearances in high A, then 48 innings of dominance in double A, and then held his own in triple A. Given the state of the Red Sox pitching right now, I think there's a scenario if they don't sign guys, which we've seen them not do at all. Mata might end up filling in here, and whether he's a bullpen arm or a spot starter or that swing man for them, I think if they move Houck to the rotation, he might have that Houck role in the bullpen and maybe being stretched out in spots, very, very early into next year. And I think Mata could be a good power, nasty pitcher.
That could make a lot of sense. The Cubbies, Matt frickin' Mervis, your opening day first baseman, has to be.
Yeah, I will be pissed if he's not on the roster opening day. Obviously, we're biased. This is a pro Matt Mervis podcast over here. And
right.
It just, what else does this guy have to prove? He's proven it everywhere. He's done it everywhere. He handles himself like a pro. You can see from that interview that we did. It's on our YouTube or on previous episodes if you're just finding us on YouTube here. But guy earned the job. He will help them win from the jump. And if he doesn't, that's because he needs to get acclimated. So let him get acclimated as soon as possible. Reward the guys who perform. Do the right thing, Chicago. Screw the service time BS.
Yes, 100%. Other sneaky bullpen guys, Ben Brown could be that bullpen guy. Another one, Daniel Palencia could be that bullpen guy because the fastball is just stupidly crazy. And if he impresses enough during spring training, that could be a guy.
Yeah, I think the ship has sailed to a degree on Palencia, the starter, even though 20 of 21 appearances last year were as a starter. I want to see this guy as a reliever. Get him up to the big leagues quick. He's had some injury issues. Like, let's fast track him as a reliever and let's throw him in that bullpen.
With 103?
Yeah, with, and some of the command issues that he's had at times. I think overall he hedged a lot of that concern last year, though. But let's throw that 103. Let's throw that 80 grade fastball in the bullpen. Let's fast track him to the big leagues for a team that's trying to compete in the next 2 years. I think Palencia is a great name to watch. One other that I think could surprise folks and get a midseason call up at some point is Jordan Wicks. If somebody goes down in the rotation, I think it's a little bit more of a stretch. So he's not breaking camp, and I know that's what we're focusing on here. But I looking at this team, it really seems like Mervis is the only guy that's gonna break camp.
Yeah, I think so. White Sox, I mean, shit, their lack of moves seems to point to Oscar Colas being in the opening day lineup.
Do we think that's a possibility?
I think it's a probability at this point.
He played 7 games in triple. Here's the thing with Colas. He's going to struggle a little bit, if you promote him and if he breaks camp, but he's going to crush fastballs enough to where he's going to be justifiably, an everyday guy. So Lenyn Sosa already broke camp or already, broke in with the big league club. So he can't be that candidate. It's crazy to say. I think Colas is the best bet. If he puts on a good show in spring training, what he did in Double-A last year, what he did in Triple-A in those 7 games, he might have earned himself an opportunity. And when you hit 314 across 3 levels like he did last year and continue to hedge that whiff concern, he's one of the best fastball hitters in the minor leagues. And in a game that is, overpowered by velo, even if you struggle against breaking balls, he can be productive enough. And I think they might be able to justify the call up.
Yeah, I think so too. Brandon Williamson, probably the guy for Cincinnati, right? Williamson, I was thinking maybe McLean, but not really.
I don't see McLean breaking camp after the struggles in the fall league. We already saw Steer up there.
Siani already played 9 games.
Abbott's not ready. You want a little bit of a dark horse is Christian Encarnacion Strand.
I like that.
Because I think this guy's just figured it out with the stick. Like I would obviously like to see him in triple. And I think, because he hasn't played at triple yet, they're gonna justify buying the extra year of control by saying, we got to see him in triple a little bit first. So odds are that's where we'll see him. But I think given Williamson struggles in triple to a degree, like I think it would be a little crazy to call him up too. They're one of the few where it's like, is there really anybody that you feel great about calling up at this point? At risk of having to name somebody, I would say the best bet is Brandon Williamson if he shows well in spring training. But man, they don't really have anybody that's a clear cut. This guy's breaking camp. Maybe Levi Stout if he shows well as a reliever. He did look pretty good in AAA with them in 19 innings. So he did walk 10 though. So it's a bit of a head scratcher there. I would say the best bet is probably Williamson.
Fair. All right, Cleveland got a lot of guys who had a taste, right? Bo Naylor had a taste. Gabriel Arias had a taste. Xavier Curry, Cody Morris, Will Brennan. Is it Valera? This is another really hard one. I don't see a guy that I think is going to break camp with the Cleveland Guardians.
Like, to me, I look at Valera and I'm like, I'd rather see what Brennan can do. I'd rather see what a lot of their other guys can do in the meantime, that have either already been up there or have played a little bit more at the AAA level.
Because you're not displacing Quan.
Him and Benson are extremely similar. He's a more athletic, or Benson's a more athletic version of Valera in some ways.
Right. So Quan and Oscar Gonzalez are two sure things in the outfield. And then at the major league level, you already have Will Brennan, Will Benson. Straw is still on this team. Like I think there's too much traffic there. So my eyes gravitate towards Brian Roquillo. But even then, I don't know, sub 700 OPS in AAA.
Yeah. Like if they were in a pinch in the middle infield, then like, yes, because he's so good defensively, but they're not. So, looking at what they have right now, and where we could see a guy maybe, push his way up. I'm sure they've got several bullpen arms that could break camp, right? That, I'm sure there'll be some surprise bullpen arms, but of the most notable prospects, kind of in a similar Williamson light, like maybe Logan Allen fits in some way. He struggled in AAA, but he did finish strong with a solid outing and, did show really well in AA. I think that's a guy that we could see, maybe thrown into the bullpen and then, spot starting here and there, but they're in this weird in-between spot because I think Tanner Bybee is going to be up at some point and will be a really good pitcher. I think he's one of the most underrated prospects out there, but with the delay of Espino with injury, with Valera not being quite there yet, Gavin Williams not quite there yet, Roquillo not quite there yet, and then the other guys already debuting, I'd say Logan Allen is probably the best candidate.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. All right, Colorado. This is hard because Tovar's already gotten a taste. Nolan Jones has already gotten a taste. Tolley has already gotten a taste.
I'll tell you who. I think Warming Bernabel is somebody that could get up by midseason, but again, he's not breaking camp.
Right.
Nolan Jones, like you said, already got a taste. Tolley has already got a taste. Grant Levine, but he played at AA. Like, this is a hard one. We're in a dry spell right here with some of these teams.
I guess Criswell.
Yeah, they just traded for Criswell.
After the trade, I like Jeff Criswell a lot. Criswell's a good dude. Ran in a similar circle with him on the Cape. He was in Brewster.
He only had 10 2/3 innings at the AAA level.
Yeah, but that's probably the guy that's closest.
That's the guy that's probably closest. If Tovar didn't, get the taste, I would have said Tovar. Romo's a little too far off. Montgomery, Thompson, all those guys back, they're all super far away. Yeah, I would say Criswell's probably the best bet. Ryan Rollison already pitched in the big leagues, right? Or no, he hasn't yet.
He hasn't, but Rollison missed the entire year.
I know. I don't know what the rehab process is there of like whether they just have him come up right away or not.
Right.
Yeah, this is not the most fun team in that regard. I guess it would be Criswell.
Okay, fair. How about Detroit? Reese Olson started 25 games all at AA. Ryan Kreidler already got a taste. Oy.
Yeah, we're in tweener land over here. For the teams, for the players, like the teams that don't have guys that can break camp, like let's just go with, I guess, the closest.
Yeah.
I think the closest is going to be a battle between Wilmer Flores and Ty Madden. Ty Madden is super polished. Flores is nastier. Both had success in Double A. I think Madden kind of has that big league, poise to him. I think
Yeah.
Madden's a guy that's going to get up pretty quickly, and I think we could see him in the rotation by midseason. But the answer is Mason Angler, right? The guy that they just took in the Rule 5,
Yeah.
who we talked about. That's a guy that's going to plug right in, and he has to break him because it's Rule 5
It's the
pick, but
rule.
it's rule number 5. But they're going to plug him into the. I think they're going to plug him in. And he's going to be pretty usable right away. But I would say Flores and Madden are the two guys that have a chance to do something early. But how about one other that I think could get up there quick is Parker Meadows. What he did last year and then what he did in the Arizona Fall League, like guy's really impressive and really seemed to put it together last year. We can't highlight Wentz because he's already pitched at the big league level, but that's another guy too.
Right. All right. Houston, Hunter Brown's already up. Yainer Diaz got 9 plate appearances, so he doesn't count. You could point to Pedro Leon, but I'm going to point elsewhere because Christian Vasquez is off the roster already. Corey Lee could be an option.
He technically had 25 at-bats last year.
At the big league level? You're
yeah,
right.
He did.
Damn.
He did.
Okay. That totally
harder.
slipped my mind.
Justin Dearden had a really good year in double. Had a lot of AB, like 128 ABs in triple and held his own, like 703 OPS. But they don't need anybody coming up. So it's really going to be just like, do they need another outfielder, another insurance guy out there? I think Dearden's a guy that could have a chance to break camp. Leon is just like, I know you love Leon. Like that's a guy that could be that utility, could be their next Jose Siri in some way. Who would you say who has a better chance to break camp, Leon or Dearden?
I think Leon, just because Leon's been there for such a long time and he spent like pretty much the entire year in AAA.
And he can kind of play around a little bit more. So I would say Leon's the candidate to break camp. Because I think what he did in AAA is kind of what you're going to get, man. Like low batting average, good on base percentage. He's going to run into some baseballs and he's going to run like the freaking wind and play some good defense with the best arm maybe you've ever seen. I think Leon's a guy that can break camp for them.
Kansas City, Samad Taylor is an option here, but I think the best option is probably Nick Lofton. Nick Lofton, a college guy, right? He was a Baylor Bear, former first round pick. Struggled a little bit in Omaha, but had a 775 OPS to Northwest Arkansas. If they need him, Nick Lofton seems like the guy.
Yeah, so Lofton struggled in triple, but if they need a guy to play some outfield for them, and again, this is another like second base, third base, like he could play every position out, and then they've been giving him some action in the outfield. So, if they want to get him some more reps in triple, we could see that. But I wouldn't mind being aggressive and throwing Lofton up to the big leagues and moving him around a little bit and letting him get acclimated there with a lot of young, talented hitters. I think Lofton's the guy that could definitely break camp. I agree. I think he's the perfect candidate.
I think the Angels have the worst farm system in baseball. I think they might be 30.
Also, can I highlight Alec Marsh, who was abysmal? 1 in 15 in Double A last year.
Oh my
got
God.
carved up or did the opposite. Sorry, what was mashed. But I think he could be a really good bullpen arm, and he has such freakish stuff that if he shows well enough in spring training, they might plug him straight in the bullpen. So look out for Alec Marsh. Sorry.
Interesting. Okay. I think the A's might have the worst farm system or the Angels might have the worst farm system in Major League Baseball. Ohapi already has a couple of games under his belt. Silseth already has a couple of starts under his belt. You got to scroll and scroll and scroll. Luke Murphy is a name that jumps out, Double A reliever at a 2.5 ERA. But the sexy answer here, I think, is Ben Joyce.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the odds they do that? Because
I mean, shit, I saw the White Sox do it with Crochet.
that's the thing, man. And like we saw 13 innings of Ben Joyce where he straight to double A, by the way,
Yeah.
where he punched out 20 and walked 4. Right. So like, and that's straight to double. Right.
Yeah.
So this guy showed it already there. If this is another dude, like if he's overpowering guys with 102, if he's overpowering big league hitters with 102 in spring training, what else do you need to see?
Yeah.
I think Joyce is the obvious answer. Neto is not going to quite break camp, but I think that's a guy that could shock people with how quick he'll get up there. Most of the other arms that I like I like Kai Bush, but only pitch at the AA level. I definitely think Ben Joyce is the guy here. And this is a team. Angels aren't gonna mess around, right? Like they need to win as soon as possible. If Ben Joyce can give them, some value in the bullpen, they're not wasting him away in AAA. I can promise you that.
No, if his first pitch of the spring is 102, like he's on the opening day roster in that bullpen.
I agree. So I think Joyce does break camp. I do.
Okay. The Dodgers, they've got 3 guys that you could really highlight right now. One hitter is Michael Busch, 2 pitchers, Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone. Of those 3, who is the most likely?
I think it depends on what they do, right? If they don't add a shortstop here and they move Lux over, now there's a little bit more room in the infield. Obviously, they've got guys like Miguel Vargas who have already debuted, and but I look at the infield situation. I think Michael Busch, because Michael Busch can play second and he can also play the outfield. He's really powerful, walks a lot. I don't think he needs to show you anything in the minor leagues anymore. He is like what he is, which is going to be high on base and a lot of slug and not a lot of value with the glove. That's the guy that I think could break camp for sure. They've got a bunch of arms too, that could easily break camp, but I think in terms of like the sexiest prospect, it's got to be Michael Busch.
Got you. All right. The Miami Marlins, is it Edie Capay or Khalil Watson?
If Khalil Watson broke camp, I'd actually eat my hat. I'm hoping that guy breaks high A camp, but the Marlins, Yuri is not going to do it.
So yeah, just to like throw some names at you right now, Enright obviously is going to do it, but I'm thinking like if there's going to be another, Xavier Edwards makes some sense.
Yep. You got it. Xavier Edwards is probably the most likely. Here's the thing, though, is they have so many of those guys in the infield, right? Like they've got Joey Wendell, they've got John Birdie, they've got even Jordan Groshans now. But with what Edwards provides speed-wise, bat-to-ball-wise, switch hitter, good defender, can play, all over the infield, Xavier Edwards has to be the leading candidate to break camp with this ball club because, Yuri's going to be up there early. I think it's possible, but there's no reason to rush him, especially with the pitching depth that they have. I think he's going to be that first guy that comes in when someone goes down or misses a start. It seems like that's Xavier Edwards is the most likely.
Yeah. Bryce Terang, you are a Milwaukee Brewer.
Oh, Terang is a guarantee. And that was a guy that I was saying, like, make that guy an opening day option. He's going to be arguably the best defensive second baseman in baseball, I think. Like, he's going to be up there, depending on whether Tommy Edman's playing second or not. Terang's bat is going to be really solid for that position too. I think the power breakout last year, 13 home runs, more doubles than we've ever seen from him. He's going to steal bases, at a really high and efficient clip. This guy is a really well-rounded player who is going to be one of the more productive second baseman in baseball from the jump. I'm a big fan of Terang, and I think this is another dark horse rookie of the year candidate.
There we go. All right. Minnesota, Royce Lewis already got a taste, and obviously he's coming back from a torn ACL. Matt Wallner already got a taste. Simeon Woods Richardson got a start. He went 5 innings in his major league debut. 2 names that jump out to me. Jordan Balazovic, who is a righty that was a deemed major league ready starter that it kind of blew up in his face. I have no idea how the spring's going to go. The other sleeper that I want to throw out is Edouard Julien. I think Julien's bat can play at the major league level right now.
Yeah. And I think that the Twins kind of believe that now too. This is one of those rare, and I think it's becoming less rare because we've seen guys get caught up. Like, I don't need to see Edouard Julien in triple. I really don't. This guy walks with the best of them. And you're telling me, like, okay, he already showed that he can hit everything in double. Triple, the strike zone gets tighter, right? The command gets better. The strike zone gets. He's gonna walk, I think, even more. Even though guys have better command there, he just has such a good knowledge of the strike zone. One of the best, chase rates I've seen in the minors. if Julian shows out enough, obviously they've got to figure out what they're going to do in the middle infield now too, because they lost Correa, right? They made a competitive offer, they lost him. Lewis is not going to be ready at the start of the season, most likely, right? So Julian can play second base from the jump. We'll see how they mix and match and move guys around, but I think with their willingness to move Arias too, because him and Arias are quite similar. Not going to offer much defense at second base and are going to hit and get on base at a ridiculous clip. He offers more power than Arias, a slightly less contact.
Yeah.
I think that could be an indication that they think Julian's ready, and I think he could make that jump from double, especially after the fall league too.
I might get an Edouard Julien jersey if he debuts.
Should.
I might do it. All right. So the Mets, this is tough. And I think the answer is none of the above, right? Because Alvarez has already debuted. Beatty has already debuted. Vientos has already debuted. And even a guy like Jose Budo has already gotten a big league start under his belt. So I think the answer is none of them. What do you think?
Like if I had to give somebody,
I just don't know who you're
Eric
giving.
Orzy or Ors. Eric Ors.
I don't know.
5 ERA in triple, but he's like a depth arm. 64 Ks, 14 walks, great command.
I mean, shit. Of the notable guys, like I guess Ronnie Mauricio could be due for a debut at some point, a couple months down the road.
He's going off in the winter league, I'll say that. But yeah, no, it's gonna be like Eric Ors. Like that's the best bet.
That sucks. All right, the Yankees. Peter tried to convince me that Anthony Volpe should be on the opening day roster, and I said no.
Yeah, I mean, that would be aggressive. 717 OPS in triple. He did finish strong. Peraza already debuted. He might be the best option though, right? Like,
yeah, because Heel's already thrown.
Unless the Yankees feel like Clayton Beeter can go in that bullpen after what he showed with them, but he was starting and they were kind of using him as a starter. So
Doug, give me Johnny Brito.
Johnny Brito could be an option. He was really good in triple. I think it depends on what they do pitching wise. I would say Johnny Brito is probably the best bet. There's always a chance they call it Volpe. I just don't think there's a reason to right away. I don't think it makes sense, especially when you brought back IKF. You might as well buy a little bit more time. And then call him up a couple months in. Like just let Volpe get some more ABs in AAA under his belt, especially after 717 OPS at that level. I think Johnny Brito is the best option. Really exciting.
All right, there we go. Okay, the Oakland A's. Is it Geloff?
9 games in triple, and I liked what I saw in the fall week. He's super polished, and there's a chance.
Guys that have already had a taste of big league ball: Waldichuk, Muller, Ruiz, Jordan Diaz, Tarnick. I mean,
could Medina?
Maybe Medina. That's another name.
It was horrible for them once, and it was a double. Q6 still far off.
Colin Palouse.
Yeah, Palouse is probably the best bet. He was.
Oh shit, Noda. Like Noda
has to. He's the rule 5. Ugh. I would say. I would say it's Zach Geloff is probably the best bet just because of how advanced he is. He's a pro's pro in the box and in the field. So if they really wanted to, they could. I just don't see the reward for them in doing that. But I would say Geloff is the best bet of guys who have not debuted yet.
Okay, fair. All right, the Phillies. Eric Miller or Griff McGarry?
Can I say Andrew Painter?
You can. You think he's going to be in the opening day rotation?
I think odds are no, but I think it's very possible. This guy is kind of embarking on that generational. Like he's getting there. Like there's a legitimate chance that let's say they don't call him up, and he's pitching in the minor leagues. There's a legitimate chance that after a few starts next year and getting to see him a bit more, this guy's the number one pitching prospect in baseball.
Yeah.
And there's a legit chance that he's right there with Grayson. And I think he's might have a slight edge over Yuri the more I've just continued to watch and dig in on it. There was some conversation about having him on the postseason roster, which was obviously a bit far-fetched. I think this guy could break camp. I think we're starting to see, like, why waste the bullets in the minor leagues when, you know, you're doing what he has done. Yeah. 37 Ks and 2 walks in Double-A.
Yeah.
This guy might just be ready to go. Like, I think we're seeing a new approach, but, you know, I think the safest option is obviously McGarry, but, you know, he didn't have that. Like, we're talking about similar amounts of time in Double-A. The only difference is McGarry made a couple appearances in relief and in Triple-A. I think in preparation to see if he could, you know, help out their bullpen. I'm going to go Andrew Painter. I'm going to roll the dice and say Andrew Painter.
All right. I'm going to be very conservative. I'll say McGarry.
Okay. I think McGarry's, I don't think McGarry's an option. I honestly think if anyone, they would just run Miller out there as a lefty reliever. But yeah, I think Painter. I think they do it.
Okay. The Pirates, like, Peguero has already had a taste because of the COVID issues. Ben Cherington has already said that Andy Rodriguez is starting the year in minor league baseball. I think it's probably Mike Burrows.
Yeah. And he needs more time, I think.
Yeah, considering they gave Vince Velasquez a hype video, they're going to need some pitching reinforcements.
They are going to need some pitching reinforcements. Like, yeah, most of the other guys already debuted. Would have said Luis Ortiz. He already debuted. Yeah, I think the best, I mean, G1 Bay already debuted. Best option here, Peguero already debuted. Yeah, it's gonna be Burrows.
Yeah. All right.
There's no way Priester. There's no way they fast track Priester.
No shot. He made what, 2 starts.
They're not.
Yeah. No shot. Okay. The Padres, like, Jay Groom, maybe, but he's been a starter. He hasn't been a reliever once. You've got enough starting pitching depth. So I go to the Golden Spikes winner, Kevin Kopps.
It does kind of seem like it's Kevin Kopps' time, right? But he weirdly struggled with command last year. 34 walks in 54 innings, which is uncharacteristic of, you know, what we kind of thought he would be. We thought he'd be that fast track to the big leagues kind of guy, which just hasn't been the case. I think, you know, Groom was surprisingly good in triple, pre and post trade. And so I think Groom is the number one kind of option here. Obviously Eggy Rosario is going to be involved in some capacity.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be Groom, and it'll be interesting to see if he gets a chance, because I like him in that kind of swingman middle relief role. Yeah. And I think in short spurts as a lefty out of the pen, he could be really good, but you can stretch him out and spot start him too. Yeah. I think seeing Jay Groom in that kind of swingman role is the most likely scenario with this ball club.
Yeah. I don't think there's a good option for Seattle. Chris Clark was the Rule 5 guy. So Clark is going to be, I think, in the bullpen. He's a big guy with, like, starter background that will be a reliever. Other than that,
they got a couple guys that are really close. Bryce Miller, Taylor Dollard, spectacular seasons last year in Double-A.
Yeah.
I could see with the data that Miller has, and with Miller has one of the best fastballs you're going to see in the minor leagues, shape-wise, velo-wise, it is unhittable. We've seen them be aggressive with, like, guys like Matt Brash, and, you know, especially if it's in the bullpen role. I could see them fast-tracking Bryce Miller to the bullpen. Yeah. If there's one guy that, you know, skips AAA as an arm, that could be the one guy, because his fastball will play there immediately. And we know this is a team that's, you know, pretty hell-bent on winning right now. Another guy that, like, might just skip because of arm issues and, you know, has the stuff is Isaiah Campbell, right?
Yeah.
Like, this guy can't stay healthy. The stuff is ridiculous. They protected him from the Rule 5 draft, kind of acknowledging, I think, that, you know, this guy could be a guy that's snatched away. They might just plug him in the bullpen and say, like, why waste the bullets in the minors when you're struggling to stay healthy? The stuff can get big league hitters out right now. So I'd say it's one of those two guys.
Cool. San Francisco, You stamped Andrew Painter. I think I'm going to stamp Kyle Harrison. I think Harrison is absolutely a guy that can break camp. On the position player front, it's probably your guy, Casey Schmidt, right? Although he's a shortstop third baseman, and it feels like they just filled shortstop and they're moving their shortstop to third base as of last night.
Yeah, I mean, Schmidt, I think is could win Gold Gloves at third, but Brandon, there's one more year of Brandon Crawford, and I think it fits with Schmidt's timeline overall. He only had a cameo in triple, looked really good. Let him play in triple next year. If you need him at a certain point, you can bring him up and he can play all over. But ultimately, as long as Crawford's healthy, let Schmidt continue to kind of marinate in triple A. Harrison, Farhan Zaidi's talked about Harrison having a chance to break camp and be in that rotation. And if this team is trying to be as good as they can, which clearly they are, right? Like this roster is far off, but they're spending and they're making additions. Kyle Harrison's going to be better than whatever else you're going to add at this point, unless you're getting Carlos Rodon, right? So I think Kyle Harrison is definitely a guy that can make his case and break camp. And when you look at the rest of the system, they don't really have any other guys that fit that bill for the most part. Everybody else is pretty far off or has already debuted. So he seems like the number one choice and could be that Painter type guy too. I think we could see two teams do it and they might feed off of each other. Like, oh, if they're doing it, like we'll do it.
Yeah, I'd be very in on that. And Dave Dombrowski, Farhan Zaidi, like I feel like those two would be hyper competitive with that too. It's like, wait, you're going with Painter? Shit. All right, my turn. Right. And so much of the conversation has been Harrison versus Tiedemann, right? And I feel like Kyle Harrison would want to turn it into Harrison versus Painter, which would be very fun. St. Louis, like the sexy name is probably Jordan Walker, I guess. But I'm really excited to see what Connor Thomas can do taking the ball for them. Thomas, short, stocky, lefty, touches 92, I think, 91, 92. But the guy just gets outs. Like he just throws strikes and gets outs.
Yeah, I think there's always a chance that Walker could break in, but the outfield play's got to come along a little bit more. I'd love to see him just get another 30, 40, 50 games in the outfield of just get comfortable out there. Like when I was in the fall league watching him, he was the best hitter on the field every game. Best player still, but the glove it's just not going to work at the big leagues yet. Like he needs a little bit more time. I think he'll get there. I think the obvious choice is got to be Connor Thomas, and what he did in the fall league and what he did towards the end of the year is a ground ball machine. They just traded for Jose Quintana last year, right? And like he kind of takes a page out of his book with working the bottom of the zone, heavy stuff, good curveball. I think Thomas might end up being relied upon to be a back end of the rotation starter for them. And everyone's gonna be like, where'd this guy come from? And he's going to be good for them. I really think he could be good for them. So yeah, I think he's the most likely to get an opportunity. But one other is Freddie Pacheco.
Mm-hmm.
Guy was good last year, man, and pretty good sample size in triple as a reliever. Really good stuff. I think both break camp. Pacheco may end up being the more exciting and sexier option because he's 24 with an electric fastball. Like you mentioned, Gallegos and the other guys that, Helsley that they bring up and plug in that bullpen and are explosive. Pacheco is that guy too. I think he breaks camp also.
Yeah. Okay. Tampa. I love that Jonathan Aranda already got up. There's not much room. I was looking at the starting rotation, and even with Boz sidelined for the entirety of this year, it's still going to line up like McClanahan, Glasnow, Rasmussen, Zach Eflin, who they just signed, and Jeffrey Springs. But Taj Bradley's ready. I think Taj Bradley does crack the opening day roster. In what capacity? I'm not sure. I think they may go 6-man rotation.
So my only concern with Bradley is, how good is the third pitch, and can he get it there? Because right now it's a fastball and the slider, and when the slider's not there, the fastball is good. It's really good, but it could be flat on him at times, and I'm a little worried that he might struggle to get acclimated to the big league level. He's 21 years old, and the Rays are very in tune with that, and I wonder if they want him to work on some things a bit more before they call him up. I do think that there's a legitimate chance he does crack the rotation too, especially if there is an injury though.
Yeah.
But Curtis Mead, I don't need to see anything more from Curtis Mead. I really don't. And I know he only played 20 games in AAA, but depending on how that lineup looks and how they solidify the rest of it, Curtis Mead adds a lot to them offensively, right? He had some power. He's a really good hitter. I think he makes a transition right away. He could play third, he could play second, he could play first. Could also be in that DH role. I would love to see Curtis Mead make this team, and I think he's shown enough. He's hit at every level, and he's just a natural.
Got you. Couple more. Texas. Josh Young has already debuted. Leiter stunk it up in Double-A. Evan Carter was a Double-A guy for 6 games, but for the most part, he was High A. I mean, who is it? Owen White made 4 starts in Double. Cole Winn stunk it up in Triple. There a name here?
Dustin Harris, but he only played at Double. And this is another one of those teams that either has guys that struggled in Triple or already debuted. And then the guys that were good in Double, were only good for a short period of time, and then the season was over, right? They were mostly starting in lower levels. So there's a couple guys here. Foscue played the whole year in Double-A. They don't really need Foscue, so it wouldn't really make sense to rush him up there, especially with Duran involved as well. But Foscue is such a high floor guy that, it could be considered. I don't know how the rest of the rotation, I don't have it in front of me. Owen White, though, he is so polished. If you're going to fast track somebody, it could be Owen White. He's got 4 pitches. They're all above average, especially the fastball is plus, slider is plus. And he really he's able to command the zone so well with his entire arsenal. I think Owen White could be that one shocking fast track guy. But other than that, it's kind of hard to identify somebody, right, from this group, because really there's not that many guys that had success in the upper levels last year that haven't debuted yet.
Yeah. Toronto. Hayden Younger, I think, is the guy for me because he was a reliever in college and then he got some taste of starting pitching in pro ball, but he's done a little bit of both. He's 95 to 96. He's a short righty. He's got a good slider. That feels like generic right-handed reliever in Major League Baseball in 23.
And they need, they're continuing to try to fortify that bullpen. I absolutely think he's an option. And then I think Spencer Horwitz. I mean, this guy has hit at every single stop. I know they got their left-handed bat, quote unquote, with Kevin Kiermaier, but they need another one. And Horwitz can be that bat off the bench. He can play corner outfield. He can play first. And the guy has just continuously hit. 2019 across the rookie levels, he had an 808 OPS. 2021 across high A and double A, 862 OPS. 2022 across double A and triple A, 843 OPS. Just a natural hitter, sneaky pop, gets on base. Awesome bench bat that you could plug in and could be a solid regular as well. I actually feel pretty confident that he breaks camp with this team and is a great platoon bat off the bench.
Got you. And then the last one, Washington. You want to talk about Cade Cavalli for a while?
I'm good.
Cavalli already started.
Christian Vaquero breaks camp. Yeah, right.
Elijah Green.
With how much you're seeing guys spend on Vaquero's cards, you'd think so.
Dude, Antuna hit 215. He hit $143 in 26 games in Double-A. The real answer here is, so Thad Ward was the number 1 overall pick in the Rule 5. I think the real answer here of guys that were on the roster is Jake Alou.
Yep. Jake Alou. Jake Alou's 100%. I think he might start for them. There's a legit chance he might start. And I think he could. Lane Thomas, whatever, magic he was pulling off last year. I think Alou's going to kind of dispel him once he cools off a little bit. Alou might not be the most exciting prospect in the world, but look at the numbers. I mean, this guy absolutely mashed last year. He's a good athlete. I think you can get by at all 3 outfield spots and certified good dude, which I know you can attest to. I have, mutual friends with him that can attest to him. He's an awesome guy. And, this is the one silver lining with these shitty franchises is you get the opportunity for guys like this to break through and prove that, they're big leaguers. And, if he's with the Dodgers, no chance he's getting a shot. No chance he's even getting added to the 40-man. He got added to the 40-man, protected from the Rule 5. And I think he's going to get an opportunity. He might be in the opening day lineup, which would be awesome.
I mean, shit, dude, he was a 24th round pick in 2019. And here he is making his debut, what we think to be on opening day in 23. My parting question to you, I'm looking at the roster resource for the Nationals, and I can't figure out which one is more depressing, the Nats or the A's. Who's got the more depressing MLB roster?
I'm going to go with the A's
Okay.
because the Nats have a couple vets mixed in. They have
With
CJ
Abrams,
Abrams,
Gore,
they have Abrams and Gore, which like,
Joey Meneses has some sex appeal.
yes, like there's just a little bit more there. But both those teams are basically like watching, more minor league ball for me. It's like more scouting work, basically.
Correct.
All right, that'll do it. Thanks for walking us through that. That was a lot of fun. We'll have a lot more, obviously the closer we get to spring training and we'll be there as well. Like we'll have more of an idea of, who's showing out, who might make the team, conversation around it, get a little bit more of an idea. And we'll be covering that all through the off season. Rangers top prospects coming out in the next day or two. Looking forward to putting that out. That should be pretty fun. It'll be another top 10, kind of checked off the list here as we continue to fly through those. A lot of good content at justbaseball.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast, if you're watching and just found us, please subscribe. Definitely excited about the content that we're putting out on this YouTube channel as well. That'll do it for this episode. Thank you as always for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you later this week.